To help us evaluate the significance of this allegation to public trust and political landscape, I am joined by Reverend Canon Goke Omigbodun. Of course, is an architect and chairman of Afenifere in Osun State. Thank you so much for coming around.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, how serious are the allegations that the tax reform laws may or might have been altered after passage, and what constitutional implications could this have?
Well, let me start off with a caveat that you just said. I am a priest and also an architect. I am not a lawyer. So perhaps constitutional lawyers are in the best position to talk about consequences. But as a Nigerian citizen, and I can say as a student of law, I can still say a few things, but I may not be an authority.
Okay.
Now, as to whether that was right or wrong, once the investigations are clear, because now it is the word of the presidency saying, no, it is not true, there are no alterations, against the word of the particular members of the National Assembly insisting that, yes, there were alterations. And if at all there were alterations, then whatever was signed by the president then is different from what is supposed to be law for Nigeria and therefore becomes defective. And I am almost sure that if challenged in court, then the courts will say that, no, that's not the law that was passed by the National Assembly, because the president alone cannot just write up something or sign just anything. It must be as passed by both houses of the National Assembly. In fact, nothing that is passed by one house, say the House of Representatives, must be materially different, either in wordings or intent from that is passed by the Senate. And therefore, nothing should also be materially different by the time the two houses agree and pass and send to the president for signature. So if anything is discovered to be different, either figures or wordings, and therefore the spirit and letter of the law will be different from what originally the intent was, then it is defective and cannot stand. I strongly believe that if challenged in court, if proven that there were actually material alterations, then it cannot stand as law.
Well, we've seen the president come out to debunk the claim anyway, but then when you look at the body language and the response of the presidency, how would you define its response, especially when you look at it from the angle of the executive-legislative relationship that have existed in this particular administration, most especially under the current president?
Well, not necessarily about this administration alone. I want to talk about us Nigerians as a people, that we should show more sincerity in whatever we do. And if you still want me to link it to this administration, if under this administration there are allegations of alterations of these and that from time to time, then it says a lot about what measure of trust Nigerians should invest in those that are ruling us right now. So it is in bad taste if what is intended to be implemented is different from what eventually is issued out as law to us. And a lot of that also happens. I know you have not asked me about that, but my mind is going to that even the court, most particularly the Supreme Court of Nigeria, should save us from the kind of embarrassment that we are beginning to see here and there, when the spirit of the Constitution and, in fact, the letters are being vitiated, being made null and void by pronouncements from the Supreme Court of Nigeria. And I have two quick examples. That's not the question you asked me, but it is pertinent to settle this first, that if the Supreme Court of Nigeria would speak to the issue of direct payments of whatever is due to local governments as against what the letters of the Constitution say, I think section 152 or so, then there's something wrong with that. If of recent too, we had a situation whereby the president is empowered by the pronouncement of the Supreme Court to unilaterally remove governors as against what the Constitution prescribes as only by the act of the state parliament through impeachment, then we already have two laws that the Supreme Court have made pronouncements against. Now, if the National Assembly is now making a law and the presidency is overriding the law, that is if it is found to be so, because like I told you, it is still the word of the presidency versus the words of particular members of the parliament right now. But if it is eventually discovered that of a truth, these alterations have been, then it will be in bad taste for this particular regime. Then it will mean that both the Supreme Court of Nigeria and the presidency are doing all they can to throw away the real laws that are meant to govern the people of Nigeria and coming with their own versions of what they want done.
Okay, so we've seen people in some quarters say that these tax reforms should be, of course, should be halted for now in terms of implementation, that it should not be implemented. Would you canvass for that while investigations continue? Because, I mean, January 1 is just a few weeks away.
Well, I don't think these investigations should last long. In fact, for me, those investigations shouldn't last more than hours. This is what was passed into law by the National Assembly. This is what was signed by the president. Do they tally in all ramifications? If they tally, it becomes law. And therefore, nobody can say that it should not be implemented. All we all need to do is to comply. But if there are material defects, then somebody should go to court and make sure that there is the stoppage of that law before implementation. And while that is being done, I hope members of the National Assembly will recognize that they are representing Nigerians and not just a political party, and then go back to the drawing board, redraft and repass the law as intended, and insist that the president should sign it into law. And if he does not, then invoke Section 59.5, Section 58.5 of the Constitution, which says that where the president, I'm reading from the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria now, Section 658, subsection 5, where the president withholds his assent and the bill is again passed by each house by 2/3 majority, the bill shall become law and the assent of the president shall not be required. So let the National Assembly therefore go back and pass the law that they want implemented for the people of Nigeria. And after 30 days, it becomes law. While at the same time, for some people, through the courts, if the court will do a good job this time, stop the implementation of that law in the time being. But if it is not stopped by the court and whatever is assented to by the president until it is reversed, either by the National Assembly or by the courts, it is still law.
Okay, so let's just quickly wind back a bit. You would recall that these particular tax reforms generated a lot of dust at the red and the green chamber a couple of months back when it was presented for lawmakers to deliberate upon. Is there any hypothesis that somehow suggests that there's a deliberate attempt to scuttle or sabotage these tax laws from being implemented by those who may feel they will be benefiting from it?
Well, it is too early to reach such conclusions since a number of investigations are going on right now. Yes, we all have suspicions here and there, and we all also have interests to protect. So for now, why don't you let us see how events unfold in the next few days? And like I told you, these investigations ordinarily shouldn't even take more than mere hours to resolve. In a serious National Assembly and with a serious people, including the civil society organizations, we should this Monday or Tuesday come up with a verdict that was passed by the National Assembly was different from that was signed by the president. So rather than anticipating this or that for now. Let us get to the root of what is happening. Once we know the truth, then we will take a position.
Okay, Architect Goke Omigbodun, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you so much. My good pleasure.